Hello everyone, my name is Robert Warner.
And I'm Elliot Jackson.
And this is the cycling podcast from Red Bull. It's called Just Ride, and we'd really like it if you subscribe to us.
Yeah, that's right. Rob, what are we up to today?
Today is just a massive day. A massive day that the free ride community of mountain biking wait for every year. It's the day when we get to open the envelope in front of me with the word confidential written on it, and we release to the world who is going to be dropping in at this year's Red Bull Rampage.
I know. It is one of the most exciting days of the year. You scroll through Instagram and see all of the, the announcement, the rider pictures.
Who's there?
Yeah, that's right. And actually, we are going to be there. We're going to be doing some podcasts on site at Red Bull Rampage, which is actually amazing.
I didn't like to ask if we were going or not because I couldn't handle the disappointment of not going, but I'm so excited now. It's been green lighted. I haven't been for, I don't know, probably 2 decades.
I know. I can't. I actually can't wait.
It's a bit like being at a Red Bull Hardline. Yeah. There's nowhere else like it. That week, it comes to life. It's an incredible feeling. So, yeah. It's going to be good.
And today on this episode, we've, as we are going to go through the riders lists, and we have some amazing guests actually to help us do that part of the free ride world. So we've got Cam McCall, commentator, amazing rider. He's been there. He's done everything. Yeah. Nikolai Rogatkin, Michelle Parker, Red Bull athlete, free ride skier, and she's really been an amazing advocate for the women's side of Red Bull Rampage over the years, which is really, really, really cool.
Incredible. Well, should we hear what they think about this rider list?
I cannot wait to hear what they think.
It's nearly time to open the envelope.
Hey everyone, since we recorded this podcast a couple of weeks ago, there's been a couple of new developments. Tyler McCall and Kurt Sorgi are no longer competing in this year's Red Bull Rampage. Taking their place are 2 alternates, which we do talk about in the podcast, Luke Whitlock and Tomas Lemoine. They are in. Let's get into this episode. Today, we're reacting to something big. We have the 2025 Red Bull Rampage rider lineup just dropped, and we've got 3 amazing guests with us today to unpack everything. Cam McCall, Michelle Parker, Nikolai Rogatkin. How are you guys? Michelle, let's start with you. Can you give us a little background on, your involvement in Red Bull Rampage?
Yeah, absolutely. I might be the different one here. I'm a professional free skier and have been a huge fan of Red Bull Rampage for many, many years. Have attended, probably like 12 or so, and pitched Red Bull years ago to add women to Rampage. And then maybe 3 years after that, we started Formation, and I was heavily involved with Formation. And that was an incredible opportunity to be boots on the ground and actually dig in the desert and kind of help these women step up into the terrain that is Rampage. And we got Rampage last year, which was a huge success.
Yeah, that was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. Like, so many good clips coming out of it, so much good content, and yeah, just an incredible achievement. Nikolai, go to you next. Tell us about your involvement in Rampage now. You were a previous competitor, and you're going again this year, but different role.
Yeah, I competed in Rampage when it was a very different event. I competed when it was part of the FMB World Tour. It was one of the diamond events, just like Joyride and all those crankworks. So it was basically labeled as a slope style event, even though it's such a different event. I feel like the event has progressed so much since I've been there in terms of the build, in terms of the riding, in terms of everything. And so many buddies of mine that were in that slope style game years ago have fully committed to this free ride / Red Bull Rampage type of career and just fight so hard to make it into this event every year. So getting to find out who's in right now, it's an exciting time. So stoked.
I know you didn't want to know the list beforehand.
I feel like I know the riders who want to be in and that are fighting for it, like I said. So having the list as a surprise today is going to I think it's going to produce some natural reactions out of me. I'm going to be really fired up for some of these.
Moments away, Nikolai. Moments away.
Hold your horses. And then obviously we have Cam McCall. You're going to be commentating this year. And I wonder if you could also give us just a little overview of the format.
The format for Rampage. Okay, sure. It's a big mountain. There's been 5 different big mountains for the men over the past over 20 years. There's been one big mountain for the women because last year was the inaugural female category for Red Bull Rampage. Format goes like this. They say, do whatever you want. There's a flag on each side representing the boundaries. You start at the top, you end at the bottom. You got 10 days to create a path connecting the two, and you have 2 runs. You're judged on how difficult of a path you choose and create for yourself, and then also the tricks you decide to perform while making it from the top of that mountain to the bottom of that mountain. It's a spectacle. There's nothing like it. We've got a lot of different judged events in mountain biking, but nothing quite like this one. And even people who don't give 2 shits about mountain biking give like 12 shits about this event.
It's actually true. Every time that I say I'm a mountain biker, people ask me if I do Red Bull Rampage.
Yeah. Which is a little annoying as a downhiller.
Well, I say yes. So.
Do ya? No. Claims it.
Might as well just say yes.
I'm going to start saying yes too.
Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to run through the automatic entries first of the men's side, and I want to get your reactions to it. You know, who stands out, maybe add a little bit of color. So
I love the fact that Nikolai doesn't know, because there's nothing better than an excited Nikolai Rogatkin. Look at this guy.
I know, I'm fired up to just see his reactions.
Okay, we've got Szymon Godziek, Tom van Steenbergen, Thomas Genon, Carson Storch, and Adolf Silva. Nikolai, your first reactions to that?
I mean, the last name on that list pops out to me the most, Adolf Silva, because he was fighting for the Rampage run that he had last year and finally got that run down. But in terms of the preparation for him this year, it's very interesting because I rode shows with Adolf all in the beginning of this year, but he was not riding a bicycle during these shows. He was riding a Stark motocross bike fully in the moto segment of the show, doing double backflips on his moto and just full like moto guys. So the preparation that he has is so different from most because he's just so off the bike and fully committed to this moto lifestyle. So, I mean, moto has, in a lot of cases, improved so many of these riders' skills. So let's see how that translates to this year. But yeah, he's a very interesting competitor to me because he's going to have no fear out there. And he's going to have an interesting attack for sure. So that's the name that pops out to me the most, at the beginning. What do you guys think?
Gosh, so many incredible riders. I've always been a fan of all of these people, but I really would love to see Carson Storch on top. I think he could put something together that could be really cool. That's a personal bias, though. I just love that kid.
And Cam, I mean, you know Carson really well. How do you think his prep has been, and who else stands out on the list for you?
Yeah, Carson's good to go. You never have to worry about him at Rampage. He'll put together a good plan, and if he lands his run, he'll always secure himself an automatic into the next year. He's been on the podium. He's won best tricks, and he's definitely poised to do it again. But if I had an opportunity to pick one name that jumped out at me on this list, it would be Tom van Steenbergen. Reason being, the last time the event was held at this venue was 2021. And if you remember how that went for Tom van Steenbergen, he stomped a legendary front flip drop. And as everybody was celebrating, unfortunately, so was he. Inside his helmet, broke concentration for a second, flipped the next step down without tapping the brakes, went to flat, completely pulverized himself. Like, this was a long recovery. The type of recovery where you're like, I don't know if this person's ever going to come back to the level they were at and compete at Red Bull Rampage. Think back to last year's event, the 2024 event. He did an even bigger front flip drop. He's pissed. He wasn't on the podium. So if he chooses to show up this year back at the same venue, he has an opportunity to get insane redemption, not only trying to get onto the podium, which, you know, he's still bitter about not making it onto those top 3 steps last year, but to potentially ride a similar line, front flip that drop and make it to the finish corral.
Okay, I want to shift to the wild cards. So I'm going to give you guys a list. We've got Aiden Parish,
Yo.
This is what I've been waiting for.
Well, let's remind everybody, Nikolai doesn't know these.
Bienvenido Aguado. We've got Cam Zink. We've got Dylan Stark. We have Emil Johansson. We've got Finley Kirschenmann. We have Hayden Zablotny.
No way.
Jaxson Riddle is in there. Reed Boggs, Talus Turk, and Tom Eisted.
Yes. Banging list. Is it not a banging list? That's awesome.
Why is it a banging list, Nikolai?
There's some legends in there. There's some guys which have a bunch of stuff to prove, and there's some young bucks in there.
Who are the young bucks that catch your eye?
Well, of course, Finley, after the insane performance at Natural Selection that got completely everyone as a fan of him, for him to now make it into this big stage, like, that's insane for Finley. And Parish as well. He's just a guy that sends it so relentlessly. Is it a cliffhanger off the drop that Zink flipped to win last time? Like, is it Aiden that was cliffhangering that drop? Like, that is unacceptable. That is a ridiculous move. So there is guys out there with a lot to prove, and to just get that opportunity, that's going to be such an insane moment for them. What do you think, Cam? What do you guys think?
I'm hoping that you guys got a whole team who edit these podcasts, and you're going to throw that clip in there right now, because cliffhanger off of the icon sender. Like,
doesn't make much sense, does it?
One of the sickest things ever done. He did it a few years ago. Homeboy's like 20 or something like that. So he did that in his submission video for last year's Rampage. Didn't make it in. Didn't even throw it on his submission video for this year. But like, if you know, you know. And I mean, that thing is such a legendary feature. For a long time, it wasn't even, people were wondering if it was possible to ride it without the addition of the wooden structure, because that's, how that feature started back in 2010. It's the one that Zink 360'd way back when. No, it's the one that he flipped. Yeah, off of the wood structure. We had the little wooden kicker. Zink flips it with the wooden extension. It comes back years later. Him and Kyle figure out a way to make it into that thing. Kyle breaks his back on one of the setup features. Everything comes full circle. Kyle comes back, makes it top to bottom. Zink wins again, flipping that thing off of just the dirt kicker. But like, I think cliffhanger, no, or it's my opinion, and I'm going to stand by it, that a cliffhanger off that thing is way gnarlier than a backflip off of it. And a backflip is really gnarly off of it, right? But cliffhanger's like the most insane thing you could choose to do off of that. So yeah, we're excited to see Aiden Parish in there, because that's just the icing on the cake of what he's capable of. He's got insane flow. He's kind of like a beast. So he's this like real aggressive character. He's got great style, great tricks, and he dedicates himself to that type of riding. So it's really exciting to see rookies on the list who have put in the time and dedicated themselves to being in this event. Sick.
Can they perform? Can they get on the podium first time? I mean, there's so much to learn, I'd imagine, at Red Bull Rampage.
Yeah, and maybe, Michelle, like, I feel like you've seen rookies in multiple sports, like across multiple disciplines. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, last year we had people that were on the alternate list get on the podium for women. So I think there's possibilities for sure. Like Nikolai said, this list has all of it. It's got the slopestyle rider. It has the showstopper with Dylan. I feel like Dylan always throws something wild. Finley is super young. He was digging on the women's side last year, which was really cool. He's invested. I love seeing the men come over to the women's side and put in time and effort. And then Jaxson Riddle, style god. To me, I'm like, this is a very complete list. And I think it's anyone's game on that day. It's whoever's got the focus, the determination, and puts together their run.
And yeah, Dylan Stark has like the BMX background. I feel like that video of him, there was like a step up with the rail that they had dug into the ground. Do you think that, like that maybe he could be a little bit more creative than some of the other mountain bike riders?
He's super creative. Like every time I watch him compete, I'm like, whoa, I didn't see that coming. Now I'm expecting it. So it's kind of like a fun one to watch for sure.
Dylan, like he did the rail last time at Rampage as well. They like snuck the rail in to the end of the run. I'm not sure how Rampage felt about that. So, but I know that Dylan and his team, they are funny guys and they're unique in their thinking. And Dylan has a very special skill set. Like it's so unique, that skill set. So I'm sure they're going to think of some absolutely absurd stuff for the run once again. No question.
I just love that as a spectator, you don't know what's coming. And it's so cool. Like there's so much unique riding on this list, from Jackson's style to Finley being new. You're like, what's he going to do? And then Dylan with the surprises, like kind of makes this event what it is. There's just a lot of different perspectives riding down that face.
Yeah, I got something to say about Dylan. For people who have watched him in competitions outside of Rampage, so going back to Proving Grounds, and then unless you were there, you didn't get to see him ride Natural Selection Tour in New Zealand this year. If you were there, you're like, this dude is on a completely different level. Unfortunately, he crashed before the event. In events like that, he's on another level. He's just so confident, so comfortable. And it's stuff like his video parts are unreal. But I've seen him do things that his video parts can't even showcase. And it's just being untouchable top to bottom. We didn't see that his first year in Rampage. His first year in Rampage was very underwhelming. He didn't show up and do what he's capable of doing. I know he was going through a lot right then. The rail thing, people say, oh, I think Rampage didn't like the rail. I don't think anybody at Rampage cared about the rail thing. Like, I'm not going to speak toward, like, you know, the rules, the organizers, or whatever. I'd like to see him throw a rail down a huge cliff, like do a big rail. He did a little tiny rail. His back tire barely got off the ground, and it wasn't that big of a deal. And he didn't ride that well, top to bottom in that run. That line probably wasn't going to score well either. So if he shows up to a different venue and he does what Dylan Stark is capable of doing, he can end up on the podium. He's got a lot of fans who would love to see it too.
If him and his team can strategize and use their experience from last time to build and practice this time, I think they can find their flow out there for sure.
And if you look at his submission video, he's doing the right thing. He went out and like built a really creative line in natural terrain, which is what he always does. Something we haven't touched on yet is riding is like 15% of the equation here. It's what all the fans see on game day, but it's the 2 weeks leading up, making a good plan, being a good project manager, conserving energy. It's all that stuff too.
Yeah, I would love actually to touch on that a little bit, because it's one thing to ride all the lines, but it's another thing to have the kind of the foresight to build them and then to actually build them. Michelle, I feel like you've seen this like from the women's side, like kind of the progression of learning what it takes to do this, like learning what it takes to like look at a blank canvas and create that. What does it look like? Like, what does it take to build a great line?
Absolutely. I mean, last year was like really putting the women to the test right out of the gate on a blank canvas, like you said. And the terrain was amazing and beautiful, but it really all funneled down to one spine feature. So they had to share, they had to cooperate with each other and team up. And then it was really cool to see certain athletes split off and dig their own lines. Like Casey Brown was like, I'm doing my own thing over here. Her team was super focused. They were on their own program. There was zero drama. They didn't have to deal with any other athletes for the most part. Like, they had their plan and they stuck to it. It was really cool. They were precision doctors out there. And then you came into the middle where like there was a lot of collaboration, and it was cool to see them work through things. And, you know, there was a feature kind of the top third of the course where there was like 3 different lips coming in, and they had to make space for all these landings, and they made it happen. And like, it was tough, but all the teams worked really well together. And then like Cam was saying, like the athletes have to think about conserving their energy. They have to delegate their diggers and kind of communicate with their diggers. And on the women's side too, like last year was a big step up. They all had to guinea their own stuff. And that was something that I think was new for a lot of the women, and they crushed it. It was amazing to watch them step up and support each other, throw tricks. And yeah, it was just really impressive. But there's a lot that goes into it before the competition actually starts.
Yeah, and it's not easy, right, Nikolai? Like it's not like it's perfect dirt and it's, you know, everything is pristine for you. Like, what makes digging at Rampage so difficult?
Well, it's just really difficult to make the right plan and execute, because sometimes you're really fired up on a certain build and then it happens and you're not as pumped on it. Or you build this drop and you're like, holy shit, can we really ride this drop? You know, it's like really difficult to know that the plan is going to work. Like we saw Reed Boggs and his team last year building his drop until the day of the competition. He tested the drop during the run. And that's a build team that has won best dig team in years past. So you know that they're confident out there and seeing what they could build. But that drop was just such a mission. They didn't realize that was going to take until competition day to build it. But they were so committed that they're like, we're going to do this. Reed is up there like, guys, I trust you. If you build it, I'm going to ride it in my run. So it's even with such experienced teams and experienced athletes out there, finding a plan that works, you can ride it good and it works for the judges and everything. It's just such a crazy formula. And I think that's why you see guys that are older with experience still having good fortune in this event, because it's so much having to do with that experience.
And before we move on to the wild cards, I want Cam and Rob for you guys to talk about, like, speaking of experience, about Emil Johansson. Like, we've seen him in slopestyle just being so perfect. Rob, what do you kind of make of him in Rampage this year?
I always think of him like Brandon Semenak, right? Coming from slopestyle. At some point, he's going to get his head around it and you'd think be unstoppable, but it hasn't gone that well for him so far, has it, Cam?
If you look at his first Rampage, his line was very much in the style of what won last year, right? And a big part about Rampage is like, well, what are the judges looking for this year? You know, it's a great ideal to hold in your mind that there's this thing that wins Rampage. Realistically, if you're a rider, you're coming in, you're going like, is this the type of year where they're going to reward my type of riding? Is it a pendulum that swings? That's still kind of a question mark. But if you are thinking that there is any continuity from year to year and you're Emil, you're coming in going like, I could do that run that won last year. Emil could do that run, no problem. Like, think about what the big strengths were from that run. Brandon did that opposite tail up into the lily pad. Brandon flip whipped a step down. Emil can do those things. I'm not discrediting how hard it is to make that plan for yourself. It's like people can do covers of songs. Doesn't mean that they can write that song. Yeah. So Emil could come in, look at that and be like, I can do that stuff. When Emil rode, he did opposite whip off a cliff, regular whip off a cliff. You know, he can flip whip a step down. So if he can come in there and write that song that can make him a Rampage champion, he's fully capable of doing it.
So he could turn up and do something big this year then. With a year's experience, he knows a bit more about it. It's not impossible to see him podium or better?
Absolutely, he can podium or better. It's Emil.
Yeah, that's right. That's what.
Skills are unbelievable.
It's something that's really cool to see is these top of the game slopestyle athletes, they train so hard and they spend so much time during the year. I don't even know how they find time to get out into the desert and figure out this whole other sport, but it is really impressive to see when it happens. And I think Emil is a rider who wants it all in mountain biking. He wants all the world titles that he's already won in slopestyle, but he wants to then turn the next chapter and be the man in freeride as well. And he's following the Brandon Semenak, Brett Reeder playbook.
He needs Rampage, doesn't he? Really, a rider of his caliber, this sort of, he needs it. It belongs to him almost.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those elite slopestyle riders have such a history of doing well in Rampage. If you look at Zink, Reeder, Semenak, guys that have dominated there have been able to transfer those skills over to Rampage, like they're saying. And Emil is the most decorated slopestyle athlete of all time. So
should only be a matter of time.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I want to mention the alternates because I know that alternates have played a really big role in the competition in years past. So we have Luke Whitlock, we have Tomas Lemoine, we have Louis Reboul, we have Clemens Cadella, and Caden Ingersoll.
Caden Ingersoll was dope.
I knew that was going to happen.
Unreal. That is so sick. But Cam, another name on that list that jumps out to me is Louis Reboul. At Natural Selection earlier this year, Louis Reboul was riding like he was about to win that event. On the day of the event, Szymon Godziek and Carson really stepped it up. But Louis was riding like a man on a mission. So that was one that I was actually expecting to almost see a wild card for. But alternate is also in same thing with Lemoine. What do you guys think?
I think Louis, he's been around for so long and there's not been a year where he's backed off the gas. He's been working towards getting back into Rampage ever since the last year he did it. And it's been a long time, but showing up at NST and and just delivering the goods, it was just made it so clear that this dude is still one of the best in the world, and especially through the types of challenges and adversity that you can experience at Rampage where the veterans can really shine. He's been around for a long time. He's still not crazy old, but his performance at NST just showed that he belongs back in Rampage. So he's third on the alternate list. Michelle, you mentioned that last year a lot of the women on the alternate list made it into the event. We're still a long ways away from the cutoff, and we're even longer away from October. Anything is possible, especially considering how many riders who are automatics this year who are considering not doing it. Being third alternate for Louis Riboul is actually a really good position to potentially make it into the event.
I agree. And I also can't imagine the headspace. So like, I've been an alternate before and you're like waiting for the call. You're like, am I in? Am I out? Like, I don't know. What do you do going into that? It's an interesting place to be, but I agree. They could easily get in.
Well, it seems like the guys that are alternates have to live like they're going to be in. A guy like Reed Boggs, he was second or third alternate a few years ago, and he said he literally manifested it. He lived life as if he was in the event, going out to the desert, building drops, preparing, and then one day, one rider fell off the list, another rider fell off the list, and Todd Barber calls Reed, and he's like, buddy, you're in. And Reed's like, well, I'm ready. So these guys kind of have to go out there and prepare as if they're riding an event, because when that call comes in, you better hope that you're ready, not surprised, So I feel like that's the mentality for every single one of these alternates. Do you guys agree?
Totally.
It needs to be, even if it's not.
Yeah. And two, like, Michelle, maybe you can explain how that works, because, everyone is building their line, but if you're an alternate, like, do you still build a line, or, I have no idea how that works.
Yeah, I mean, last year for the women's event, the alternates were in before the building actually started. So they were there on the first day. But I don't know, Cam, how does that work? If someone were to get injured during a dig day or back out, then they know before they start building.
There's a cutoff in August, I believe. That might be September. I don't know when the cutoff is. There's a day that is like substantially pre-event time where if nobody's pulled out, that is sealed. If somebody pulls out after that day, you just have less people on the roster.
Okay, I want to move on to the women's. So we're going to go through the automatic entries. Oh, go on.
Sorry. This, we talked a lot about veterans. We talked a lot about rookies. There's a handful of people on the list we didn't talk about. That's fine. But this will be the first year in all the years of Red Bull Rampage where Kyle Straight will not be there. So we got to at least acknowledge that.
He's retiring, he's done, or he's just taking this year off?
It's one of those scenarios where it's a different event if you're not showing up to a new venue, and a lot of these riders who've done it since the beginning, they've showed up to these venues time and time again. It's that same thing we were talking about earlier. I don't know. We may see him back at some point. Maybe there's a new venue and Kyle Straight comes back. I would not count that out, but we got at least mention that because that's a pretty insane feat from 2001 to 2024. And one of those years breaking his back and then healing in time to make it back the following year. It's his Rampage career has been insane. Doesn't mean it's over, but this will be the first time we don't see him on the invite list.
I was there for one of his wins. The one where he put the bear suit on afterwards. Was that 2008 or something?
2004, Halloween. Yeah.
There you go. Is that when it was? My goodness me.
Yeah. I mean,
you're older than you thought, Rob.
Thanks.
So one year that I was there, he won as well.
Did he?
Was like, suicide no-hander off that. It's like, I think it was 2015 maybe.
Guy.
Well, I blame both of you guys for not being there last year then.
That's it.
Okay.
Maybe he could have won his third.
That's true. Well, you know what?
Get him on the phone.
Yep. So our automatic entries for women, we first have Robin Goomes. Obviously, we have Georgia Astle. We have Casey Brown, and we have Vaea Verbeeck. What are your thoughts on Robin's run?
Oh my gosh, such a heater. And she opened it up. She was the first athlete to drop, came in and landed a backflip like at the top of her run, basically, which is super difficult. and then to continue and nail the rest of her run. But yeah, Robin is someone who is determined. She's focused. She came up to take a second run, had Chelsea beat her in that number 1 spot. She was ready to drop again. I was so impressed with her riding and over the moon for someone like that to win it. I know she went home and spent the money on building a compound for herself, and like, dreams come true. That's a life-changing amount of money you walk away with. So like, yeah, just Robin is such a steadfast athlete, and I'm really looking forward to seeing her drop in again.
Was there anything that stood out to you, Cam, last year?
The thing that stood out to me was how impressive it was that year 1 for the women was on a brand new venue. That is true to the spirit of the original Red Bull Rampages. We've been revisiting sites for so long now, but for the women to start out not on a venue where they've already done a formation, not on a venue where the men had already carved the path, to truly tame that mountain. And it was a pretty challenging site as well. It was relentlessly constant vertical. There was not very many flat sections. It was like full gas the whole way. So for them to create that many rideable lines, and then for a rider like Robin to drop in first, like you said, Michelle, and not only make it top to bottom, but link a flip in the middle of the run. It was a great way to get this thing kicked off. And now is the right time to go to a venue that has some established lines. And you're going to see that level just go through the roof.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like it was interesting coming in because we've seen so much history. And I think like somebody like Casey Brown, I think had a lot of pressure on her. She was kind of the one, I feel like from the outside, you're like, oh, this event is made for you. You know, you've been working for so long. Nikolai, when you think about that, right, like coming in kind of like having expectations on you, do you think that was something that Casey felt that first year?
Oh, I think the pressure was on immensely. Absolutely. For someone like Casey, who's been such a pioneer for women's freeride, like that pressure is insane, but she absolutely killed it out there. The riding spoke for itself, and then just that like camaraderie between the girls and that mental stress that they had to deal with. Like Cam was just saying, the venue is so challenging, and then on the day of the competition, they get massive wind there in the morning after the conditions seemed perfect, and they were just so connected there at the top, dealing with that stress. And just took advantage of the moment and supported each other, lifted each other up, and really provided an insane show. And there was a lot of people out there questioning, hating, and seeing how they would perform. And they put on an incredible show. And like we said, now they're coming into a venue with more. That level is going to be insane. That pressure is obviously still going to be there, but it's not going to be the same as that first event pressure. It's going to be a little more freedom feeling for them to take more risk and see what's possible. Because last year there was almost that first event jitters, first Rampage fear involved. So yeah, Casey has been leading the way since the beginning for women's freeride, and yeah, people like Robin and Casey and all those girls that are on that list that we just described are going to go down as absolute legends in this sport. It's just the beginning, really. So exciting times, honestly.
Yeah, and Michelle, maybe you could just give us a little background on like what it was like to be there and what that day felt like.
Well, I was positioned at the top at the start, so which is a really beautiful and heavy place to be, like right before the women drop in. And it was really cool to kind of like before that comp day, I asked them each individually, like, what's your vibe at the top? Do you want me to be like screaming like primal screams? Do you want me to be cool, calm, and collected? Like, what are we doing? And most of them were super chill. Like Robin and I were dancing. We were dancing. She was teaching me these dance moves. Everyone, I was like, all right, it's you, your bike, and the earth. Like, you've got this. Vaea is hyper focused. Like, I had electrolyte snacks. I was just there to like support. And it wasn't super tense. I think the hardest part is dealing with the wind, and especially at this competition where the time is now. You don't get to wait a couple hours to, throw the comp. We pushed it back as long as we could, but then there was a moment where like I had Darren Bearcloth on the phone on speaker with all the girls up top, like, this is Rampage. We got to drop in. The time is now. And I think that kind of pressure and dealing with that in a competition scenario, it like plays a lot into the selection of these women and how much experience they have. So yeah, I wouldn't say it was like super overly tense up top. I think all of these women have incredible heads on their shoulders and are really good competitive athletes that are really confident in their riding, which they showed up. I mean, you give women the opportunity and they showed up and leveled up. It was just beautiful to watch.
Question. Okay. So last year was year one, right? And it went great. With that said, we didn't see a lot of second runs. We can talk about how insane it is to even consider riding in the wind, which is so real anytime you're out there. But let's think about now. We're in year 2, right? All the competitors have seen one competitor from last year walk away with $100,000. Okay. Now, this coming October, do we have a different vibe at the top? Do we see more riders potentially go, I'm taking a second run because I saw that training compound that Robin built. I want that $100,000.
I think you're nailing it on the head, Cam. Like, I just competed in my first comp in 17 years. And if I could go back, like the things you feel afterwards when you're like, okay, it's all done, the dust has settled, but then you just start thinking about the next year coming up and you want it even more because you've been there, you've done that. And the first year, like, I'm so proud of everyone for showing up. And to be quite honest, like, it's hard when you're standing up there and it's windy and you want to take a second run. Hats off to Chelsea Kimball for taking a second run. And then Robin knew that if she was getting bounced out of that first spot, she was going to drop in again. But I think for most of these women, it was like such a relief to have made it down for that first run. And I would imagine coming into year 2, they're going to step it up and take their second run. And that competition is going to be leveling up. And yeah, I'm just so excited. As you can tell in my voice, I'm getting really passionate.
I love it.
Is that the moonshine or are you really excited?
Yeah.
Let's see the moonshine. Come on, bring the moonshine out.
It's my morning homemade electrolyte mix.
That's what I call it too.
It looks a lot like moonshine.
Yeah.
Guys, I got to advocate for the women for a sec because I had a lot of conversations with some of these women after the competition last year, and they were saying that the conditions were already tough out there without the water. It was some dusty, slippery moments, and a lot of mistakes that they had was kind of slipping out or losing control or having to go too slow. And, you know, the sun would just kept beating down because we had to wait for the wind. So a lot of these women, the mentality that it seemed was, yes, I'm relieved. Yes, I want to do a run too, but right now there's more wind than run 1 and it's going to be just more dusty and slippery. So is it even worth the risk of going out there to do a worse performance? So I think there was a desire to do it. They weren't just like, oh, we did it, we're done. There was kind of like, we don't know if we can perform better in these conditions. So we're just going to take this. So it wasn't just like an acceptance. It was more of a tactical decision, unfortunately.
Yeah, and in many ways, I guess they made the more difficult decision because they knew that, you know, all eyes were on women's Red Bull Rampage last year. It's brave. It's brave to say we're not dropping in if we're not going to look as... I mean, it's the right call, isn't it?
And somehow, I mean, I don't know how we've talked about Rampage for this long and not spoken too much about how real the consequences are. It's so shrunk down when you watch it on TV. When you're out there and you realize how many life-changing cliffs there are around every single corner, it doesn't matter how much money is dangling from that carrot. You know, your life is worth more than any of that. And so those are the real things that are running through an athlete's mind when they're considering how dry, dusty, and slippery a section might be. That's a great point, Nikolai.
Totally. And to overcome some of those mental challenges, like last year, for example, in practice, Cami, she took a really bad crash on what was arguably one of the largest step down features airs that a woman has ever hit. And she guineaed it and she took a really bad crash and was concussed and was pulled from the competition. But then Chelsea had to step it up and hit that same feature. And she hit that thing time and time again. And just the mental fortitude to be able to step up and do it again, I think is pretty damn impressive.
What has the conversation been like over the course of this year, Michelle? Like after the high kind of dries down, people start to reflect and like, what have people been working on? What are the things that have kind of come up as the years progressed?
Yeah, I mean, it's been incredible to watch these women step it up from the very first formation we had to the third one to competing in Rampage. And then this summer having NST thrown in the mix. Like, from an outsider's perspective, this is the fastest I've seen a sport improve and progress in a short amount of time, like in the history of action sports. And I can say that, like, I pay attention a lot to this stuff, and to see these women come into it and grow, and, you know, they're given the opportunity and they've showed up time and time again. I just think it's like, my hat's off to them. Like, it's a sport that is growing so quickly, and it's got me on the edge of the seat. And as a consumer, this is all I've wanted for a very long time. I want to see these women out there charging. I want to see edits like Vinny Armstrong. If you guys haven't seen her latest edit, like, that is what I want to see. And it makes me so fired up to go out and ride my bike. And that's what it's all about. So yeah, it's impressive.
Totally. Okay, I want to get into the wild cards. So going through the wild cards, we have Camila Nogueira, we have Chelsea Kimball, CJ Selig, Hannah Bergman, Harriet Burbidge-Smith, Janelle Soukup, Kirsten Van Horne, and Vinny Armstrong.
Well, a lot of female athletes. How many women total then?
12.
12? That's a big jump up. Didn't we have, how many do we have last year? 7?
Yeah, totally. 7. I think that's a huge, my hat's off to Red Bull and Todd Barber for adding these women. That is what progression looks like. We can't have the same status quo. We're getting there. And this year also, the women will have the same amount of diggers as the men. They're on a course that already has been established. So we're really starting to get into the mode of them competing on an equal playing field, which is awesome. But holy moly, this women's list is insane. It's so exciting. Yeah, Cammy needs this spot. She deserves it. She showed up last year, and I hope she's healthy and can come out and show us what she's done. She's historically been the one that goes the biggest, alongside Chelsea, and Chelsea kind of really showed up last year with stepping up to the same feature as Cammy, and she dug her own line as well as Casey Brown, and it was really cool to see her get creative on that face. And then we've got CJ Selig, who I think has been progressing in a really safe way and like really calculated when it comes to her approach to riding this kind of terrain. And she's someone who years ago I wouldn't have thought this, but now she's here, she's ready, and she got the invite, which I think is huge. Hannah Bergman. I mean, to me, she's someone who, you know, the very first formation, she was the dark horse. She had very few sponsors. And I remember the first day, it gives me the chills even thinking about it. All the features are built and we're starting out at the bottom, hiking up. And I'm like, there's a rider that's at the top of the course. And Hannah had gone up before all the other women and safety was in place, but she hit the biggest feature on her line right out of the gate before anyone else was at the top of their lines. And like I said, she was a dark horse, very few sponsors. And I was just, my hat's always been off to her for being someone who is so poised and confident and really brings the entire women's field up because she steps up to the plate and she'll hit stuff first. And I can't wait. She was injured last year, so it's going to be impressive to watch her drop in this year. And Harriet was injured last year as well. And I think seeing her ride at formation, like she is ready to go. And I think she's really hungry. And, you know, last year was one of the hardest mental and physical years for her coming off of her injury. And I couldn't be more excited to watch her step up to the plate. Yeah. Do you want me to keep running through the list?
Please.
I'm just going right now.
Please keep going.
We got to talk about just the toughness of Haz. I mean, if we're even not talking about the big neck injury from Joyride, she did a backflip in practice at Crankworks Rotorua, bailed, broke her kneecap, still rode the contest run, and then realized that her kneecap was broken. I don't know if I have exactly that story correct, but it was something like that. She is so unbelievably tough. Like, it's just ridiculous, the pain that she can ride with and the resilience. So for her getting this invite, this opportunity, that's going to be a big one for her. And like Michelle was saying, the recovery over the last year has been so mentally and physically difficult. She's going to be kind of a leading force in terms of resilience as an example for these female riders because, wow, she is tough.
I'll bet she's back stronger than before, too. You know, she has been so dedicated in this rehabilitation from something that could be career ending. And she's in the best shape of her life, I think, both physically and mentally. and she very much deserves a spot on this list. It's really exciting to see her on there. I think she's going to come out swinging.
Couldn't agree more.
Michelle, before we move on to the alternates, I would love for you to just give a little color to Janelle and Kirsten, two rookies in the field this year.
Totally. So excited to have both Janelle and Kirsten in here. Kirsten has dug a lot for formation, and last year she dug for Vaea at Rampage, and she's someone who is just so focused and so professional and shows up early and takes this super seriously, and she's an incredibly talented athlete. I think for both her and Janelle, I don't know Janelle personally, but I can just tell her personality shines through. Both of them competing in ST played a huge role in them getting on this list, I'm sure. That competitive background and them being able to show up and complete a T2B at that competition, that helps them a ton. But yeah, two rookies coming into the scene, filling some prize seats. Can't wait to see what they've got under their coming into this competition. And then can't go without talking about the style goddess Vinny Armstrong
Totally.
with her incredible whips. And everything about Vinny to me, I feel like she's been a bit of an underdog at times and just coming out with incredible style and really a unique approach to her riding with that style. Yeah, so huge fan of Vinny. She's smaller, but she comes out there aggressively and attacks on her bike, and she always has some beautiful style on the bike, and I think the world of her. So yeah, this list is so complete, and I got a nod to Louise Ferguson. I can't wait for her to apply for the Rampage. She's done one formation and she's just so talented. But yeah, I feel really good about this list of women coming in to compete this year. It's going to be a really good show.
So I want to run through the women's alternate list as well. So first off, we have Dominique Ohaco, we have Gemma Corbera, we have Lucy Van Eestreen, we have Kaia Jensen, and then we have Sam Soriano.
Well, I've got a little bit of a bias here, but Dominique is an Olympic freestyle skier. So watching her come from the Olympics in one sport and totally changing disciplines to something that's very different but similar, you're facing downhill. Her edit that she submitted was incredible, really strong, solid, fast, big mountain riding, and not as many tricks. I think that's something that she could throw in the mix there, but I just was really impressed with her, and it was really cool to see that many more women submitting edits and trying to get into the competition. That is the growth of this sport, and now they're awarded the opportunity. So Dominique is right on the cusp there with her alternate spot number 1, and I could definitely see her moving into the competition, which would be very exciting.
Yeah, Domi and Gemma are two riders that really love to push their limits, kind of in different ways. Domi is very fearless. She wants to attack these big features, big drops. She arrives to an event. She sees the biggest drop in the whole place. She's like, I want to hit that. Gemma is more trick oriented. She can do front flips. She can do backflip variations. She kind of shows up and knows that she can get upside down on these features, and she wants to do it, even if that means a crash or two in the mix. So those two first alternates are very motivated to push their personal limits and in turn push the women riding as a whole. So they will be fired up, and they'll be risking a lot if they get in. So stoked that they're on there.
And Cam, we've seen Lucy kind of in BC at Crankworks and stuff over the years. What do you think about her riding?
I think she's super stylish. She is super young, and she's very much on an upward trajectory. It's nice to see her, third alternate, which is always within striking distance. There's a lot that can take place between October, and if it's not this year, it'll be at some point, because she's super fun to watch, and it will be enjoyable to witness her progression moving forward.
I want to wrap it up there, but thank you guys so much for coming on, and Rob and I will see you guys there.
Wait, really?
We're gonna be there.
You guys are coming?
We're coming to hang out and watch. Yeah,
cool.
Okay, catch you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Rob, I think that's made me even more excited to go to Red Bull Rampage this year. What are you most excited about?
I think, just getting in the canyons, watching the build, and the anticipation of seeing these lines built and then obviously seeing them done. I mean, let's be quite honest. I don't think there's anywhere else or anything quite like this, really. It's yeah, it's Red Bull Rampage.
Oh,
it is what it is.
We're going to be there for an entire week.
Oh, my.
And we're going to be putting out content almost every day, I think, doing podcasts with the riders, the people on site, which will be really amazing.
Dream come true.
I think it's really cool because I think you guys should leave us some comments on who you want to hear from and maybe some people you haven't heard from before. You can do that on any of the channels and also just ride at redbull.com. And I mean, nothing left to say, but we'll see you there.
It's going to be amazing. Don't forget to like or subscribe as well to the channel, please. That would be amazing. But we are all systems go for Red Bull Rampage. Get me to Utah.